Welcome back to the Church of Obelisk. Today we're going to take a look at a 33 game where he's playing Visage in the carry role. Now this is pretty unusual, but we're going to see how he makes it work, and we're going to talk about whether I actually think that carry Visage is viable. So we see him right away taking Soul Assumption. We're playing in the side lanes, that's typically what you want as level 1. Also it's great in these kind of early fights, you have so much damage coming out. But this fight is not going well for them, so already lost 2 heroes. And in these kind of fights, the most important thing is just not to get caught. And notice he's not even using Soul Assumption here, even though he has 3 charges, because it's not going to kill anything. And since he's the carry, he wants to play a bit greedy, so he's just going to preserve his mana rather than spending it on making someone else's lane a little bit easier. And they're going to get some bounty runes at least, so not all is lost. And with this Doom being very aggressive here, this TP from Ogre Magi is very strong actually. They might be able to get a kill here. And almost, they're going to get him down to 35 HP. But of course this uses up most of the mana from Visage. So, he's gone for a bit of an unusual item build. Don't try this at home, kids. He's gotten no regen at all. And he's going to be relying on the regen that Ogre can give him. Generally something I would not recommend. Like if you're in this very high MR games, your support's actually reliable, you can maybe get away with this, but even then I would still probably just open up with a Tango, because having all these branches is nice. It's like an efficient way of using your item slots, but really you want to have some of your own Tangos. You cannot always rely on your support being nearby and to hand you a Tango, and he's even gonna die here. This is a pretty tough lane to go against, to be honest. This is a core Venomancer and support Doom here. And you see he's actually ferried himself out some tangos here with the courier. So now he's at least got some regen. And this wand I don't think is actually that good in this lane. They're gonna spam spells too much. So I'm not a big fan of this opening build, to be honest. And what he looks like he's going for is a Basilius and then a Hem of Iron Will. And the only real item that makes sense for Hem of Iron Will is Hem of Dominator. And that is like a reasonable item to go for on Visage. I'm not the biggest fan of Dominator, because like the stats it gives are pretty irrelevant on Visage, so you're only really getting it for the creep. And the creeps, some of the creeps are very strong on Visage, some of the others are not, so it depends a bit on what creeps you can get, so I usually don't like to go Dominator. But if you go with carry Visage, that might be a reasonable choice, because it is an item that is quite strong if you can get it early. And so that's also part of the reason why he's going for this greedy item build with very low regen and getting all these branches that are just going to be an efficient, cheap item to fill up his slots while he's going for Dominator. And of course, Basilius is a very efficient item on Visage, especially if playing in side lanes. If you have this Soul Assumption, you're gonna be using a lot of mana, so having mana regen is very powerful. Also helps your Ogre. But generally speaking, side lane Visage is quite strong in kill lanes, and this is kind of a kill lane because they're gonna try to get kills here. But even though they have Ogre, who is generally pretty strong early game hero, and they're not really doing all that well in this lane. Okay, Ogre now being gone on again as Visage. You just want to slow down this Doom. Definitely grave chill that guy and try to pump out as much Soul Assumption as you can. And then you can maybe get a kill here. But the Ogre dies first, and Visage now also very, very low. So he's going to have to rely on his own tangos. And he's not really eating his branches so much. He really wants to keep these items around for a long time to get a lot of value from these extra stats. And he's now decided to change his mind, and instead of the Hem of Dominator, go for Vlad's. I think the reason for this is that the lane is not gone that well. So Hem of Dominator is good if you can get it really early, but if not, then it loses a lot of its value. So instead it decides to go for the Vlad's, which is an item that a Visage can go for. It's a decent item, and they actually even get the kill plus the deny. That's very good there. What Vlad's gives you is a bunch of bonus damage for your birds, which is very nice. The lifesteal is not that relevant, but still it helps. It means you don't have to drop your birds nearly as much. You can use lifesteal to regen your birds up. and the mana region is kind of nice, and it's just like a strong item for team fighting. And that is what you want to do as Visage, regardless of what position you're in. You always want to be like aggressive in the mid game and fight with your team. That is what Visage is all about. And so 33 has been actually really loving the Vlads. He's been going Vlads in every game he's played recently on Visage, whether he's playing position 1, 2, or 3. The good thing about Vlad is that it has quite a nice build-up. So you have this Basilisk, which is a very strong item in lane. Blades of Attack, great item as well, helps you with the last hitting a lot, which is something that Visage struggles with. And then the Buckler is also just a fairly efficient item. So great build-up. And so it's a nice item to go for at the start. Mid Kotl, TPing to the top lane. So that is going to be a very dead Visage. Just going to try to get all his spells off, but then it's going to die, and there's not really much you can do at this point. Puck the TP's in there to try to make something happen. It does not quite get a kill here on the Kotl. The Kotl outplaying him a little bit here, and he does eventually die, but so will Puck and the support Ricky. So what do you do as Visage in this situation? You definitely do not TP top here. That's death sentence. So instead he's going to TP to mid lane. Gonna take the mid lane for a bit, and he just needs to get his level 6. Because you don't really want to be behind in levels like this as Visage. Getting your 6 is super important. And since mid lane are left anyway to TP to top, he can't really return to this lane quickly, so this is the best lane for him to be right now by far. Now that he has his birds up, he can farm a little bit more effectively. Level 1 birds don't do that much damage, so especially if you're up against melee heroes, they're not that strong because melee heroes have damage block. They have 50% chance to block 16 damage, so on average reduce damage by 8. So basically familiars do about 1/3 less damage against melee heroes, something you have to keep in mind. But against creeps obviously they don't have damage block, so they're still quite good at just farming. And with these skeletons out, you have to probably take those out first because otherwise it takes so much damage. And some efficient farming here with Sand King together, and this helps Visage catch up in levels a bit. He's still not in the best shape, and I've specifically chosen this game to showcase the carry Visage because it's a game where they lose the lanes. Right now it's about 10 minutes, laning stage is over, and all of their cores are behind. They lost all 3 lanes, they're 4k behind at 10 minutes, which is horrible, but they are still, spoiler, going to win this game. And this is why this is a good showcase of the power of even a safelane Visage. So let's look at this fight. He wants to focus the ranged heroes, like Lion is a good hero to focus. He's only level 5, so he's easy to kill. And just sticking those birds on him, not going too deep in the fight. But you don't want to be in the middle of the fight because then you lose all of your Grave Cloak stacks and your birds die. But as it is, the birds are taking so much damage, but they're still alive because they've got the aura. It's only level 1 aura, but still, it's quite a lot of damage reduction, right? 4 times 8% is still 32% damage reduction. That's still quite significant. And he gets doomed now, so he is going to die. I'm going to try to delay this by dropping the birds. And when you're doomed, it's important to notice that you cannot use this helper ability here. But you can still use your stone form manually while selecting your birds. So after his death, he TPs to the bot lane. This is an empty lane where you can farm a bit, catch up a bit. Because like, if you're the carry, you can definitely afford to play a little bit greedier here. And that is what he does, just trying to find some farm to catch up a little bit. And the next item he's going to go for is probably going to be drums. I mean, I know it's going to be drums, but in this situation, it's most likely that's the best follow-up item because drum into Boots of Bearing is just very, very powerful in this stage. You basically always want to go for drum into Boots of Bearing, pretty much no matter what position you play. So he's now gone on this anti-mage, and he has Puck coming in, so he's going to try to keep this anti-mage contained here. And right now, he could have actually blinked. There was like half a second where he could have blinked, but now he gets caught by the Puck. And that is most likely going to be a kill. And the silence comes in there. And that's a kill for the mid lane. And now this Lion, of course, very vulnerable. He's a ranged hero, so he dies very easily here. And after doing these 2 kills, he decides to try to take this tower down. This is a bit risky. And it is being gone on here and is gonna die. The thing is, though, if you're behind in a game like this, you kind of have to take some risks. So this is not an unreasonable risk to take. But unfortunately, they're also gonna get both of the birds. So that's very efficient kills for the Radiant team. Again, TPing to lane where he can farm. This is a nice lane to be in. Defends this tower. Also possible for some pressure on the enemy tower. But with Old Man Cottle blasting the waves here, there's no way you can push. So it's just going to go to the triangle and do some more farming. Many Visage players these days go for a Tranquil boost. He's not going to go for that here because he already has Vlad for extra regen, for extra lifesteal. So he doesn't need the regen from Tranquils. So he just sticks with brown boots for now. And we see the drum here coming out, and that is just a very efficient setup, like drum plus Vlad's, very efficient for mid-game fighting. So they see a Doom wandering in here, not sure exactly what the plan is for this Doom, but he's gonna die. Another reason for this Vlad's here in this game is that they're playing against Venomancer, who of course, even if you win a fight against Veno, usually everyone is gonna be quite low, so having that lifesteal aura can be quite nice to be able to take objectives after winning a fight against Veno. But this is really an item that 33 is going for every game, so it's not a specific reaction to Veno. One thing that's really missing from the item build, in my opinion, is a Blightstone. Blightstone is a super efficient item on Visage. You do a lot of physical damage with your hero and your birds, and Blightstone basically gives you an extra about 10% damage against low armor targets like creeps. And against heroes, it's still something like 6 or 7%. And that is just so efficient for an item that's only 300 gold. So I would basically never skip Blightstone on Visage. Maybe if you have like a lot of other heroes in your game that have like a Blightstone or Orb of Corrosion, then you can maybe skip it. But this is not the case here, so I think this is definitely an oversight. And Medallion is an item you can still go for even on carry Visage, but it's significantly less value on carry Visage than on other positions. Because a big part of Medallion is that you can then upgrade to Solar Crest, and Solar Crest is great to buff your carry, but here you don't have a carry to buff, you're the carry yourself, so he's going to be skipping Medallion and Solar Crest, which I think is very reasonable in a game like this where you carry Visage. So they catch this Cottle with the Fate Bolt, and that's going to be easy kill. And of course he's going to be using drum charges because you want to get boots of bearing anyway, so you can be rather generous with your drum charges. You don't need to preserve them for very long. And the follow-up item that's going to come out here for our Visage player is going to be the AC. This is an item that on lower farm positions you don't go nearly as much, but if you're a carry, you know, why not just go for the big boys here? And this is obviously a great item for your familiars as well as for your team. So he's just all around building around this aura, stacking, and just going to have a great teamfight experience with that. There's still 3k behind in this game, so they're still in a good position. And of course, with the carry Visage, they're not going to scale too well into the late game. And they're also playing as Anti-Mage. However, Anti-Mage doesn't have that much farm, right? He's doing fine, but it's not an Anti-Mage that's getting out of control. And they're also playing against Cottle. And mid-Cottle is, in a lot of ways, kind of similar to an Alchemist. In that he's a hero that farms really efficiently, but doesn't make very efficient use of that farm, right? But just like an Alchemist with an earlier timing, basically. Right? You farm super fast, but then the network that you have is not as efficient as it would be on a different hero. Notice also that he's doing a bit of split pushing with his birds. Why not? It is another advantage of this Vlad. You can just hit creeps, and because of the lifesteal, you're going to be in good shape here. You have to be careful though with your birds, they die quite quickly. But on the other hand, also they can lure your opponent into a false sense of security, and that's why they get this Cottle kill here. And all this time he's still using his familiars up there. No familiars up there, hitting creeps while he's playing this lane. So he's playing both of the side lanes and really maximizing his farm that way. Gets jumped on a little bit here by Anti-Mage, but really it's not a big deal, it's only an Anti-Mage. Still pushing up with the familiars here in the top lane, and He almost loses them, but he just manages to save them. And the thing about anti-mage is they can't really chase these down very effectively because he's not a ranged hero. He doesn't have any ranged spells. So he could sort of blindly blink in here and try to get a kill here, but that's a pretty low percentage play. So he's successfully hidden from anti-mage, but now Cottle Blast comes in and unfortunately leads 200 gold here to the Cottle. But really, he's gotten so much value out of these birds at top, so that it was definitely worth it. So generally, you don't want to do these kinds of plays if you have a cooldown on familiars. If you have cooldown, you want to be more careful with them. They've gone for a bit of a smoke break, trying to catch this anti-mage. Whereas the anti-mage not easy to catch, but they have good heroes for catching him. This Ricky, for example, with the sleeping dart, can really set up these kind of kills. He's trying to look for anti-mage, but they don't find him, so he's just gonna go back to farming. There's part of that anti-mage here, and they're gonna go on him. They have all the team here, so this is a great engagement here. Use the bird stun here, and obviously you want to use your bull jumps in there as much as possible, and that is a nice kill. And maybe they can roach from that, but instead they're going to chase for some more. They chase a bit more here, but they don't really get anything, unfortunately. You see him resummon the birds. He's level 18 anyway, and now he thinks about roach, but now it's a bit too late. So I think they could have just gone straight to roach and gotten that, but instead they go for the chase. So 33 has now decided that he maybe wants to go for Aghanims next. That's also a very reasonable item, and typically if you go for this more aura build, then it means you go for fairly late Aghanims. So now this might be a reasonable time, but I think I maybe like the BKB a little bit more. Of course, also another build you can go for where you go for like an early Orchid, and then Aghanims is a much stronger follow-up. That's more of an assassin type Visage, where you can sort of run around Invis and then attack people with Orchid and come from Invis. But at any stage of the game, you can still get an Aghanims even later. It just helps a lot with repositioning in fights, with escaping from stick situations, and as well as also initiating. But that's not something that you want to do that much. It's not really an initiator kind of build that 33 is gone for here. Instead, they're just gonna go and try to do some tower damage here. I'm not sure exactly what triggered this high ground push. I guess they're just trying to force back the enemy team, and they're kind of slow to respond. And obviously with this item building and Visage, they do so much tower damage. There's also at least some right-click damage here, and in these fights it's important to not go into deep. You can see he's never really going uphill. He's just sort of staying down here, have the birds on the high ground, but Visage on the low ground. And after a very successful push here, they retreat and gonna lose a bird here, but obviously great push here, and it's not something that the Radiant team probably expected. And looks like they really changed his mind. He's gone for the BKB instead of the Aghanims first. Very smart choice here, and also he's kind of low on drum charges, so now he wants to go for Boots of Bearing. And you can see him even just like wasting a drum charge here just for some extra movement speed, because he knows he's going to get Boots of Bearing soon. And now we're going to see the power of BKB come out. So he's just wandering around here, and he sees the enemy team coming in there, so he immediately uses Boots of Bearing to try to escape, but it's not quite fast enough. So birds will pull away a little bit to protect them, and now they're coming back in again, and he's going after the vulnerable ranged heroes. And with BKB coming out, he can actually survive it. Without BKB, he's almost certainly dead here. With BKB though, he's killed the lion, and now he's gone after this Doom. Doom is not that easy to kill, but he's also support, so it's not too bad. Stuns the anti-mage here with double stun and then resummons. A very powerful move, also kind of risky move. They can stun again here. But there's a lot of stun coming out, right? These things stun for 1.5 seconds, so you basically get 6 seconds of stun if you stun twice and then resummon, stun twice again. Very powerful move. Obviously uses up your resummon, so it's a kind of risky move as well. And now they're going straight into Roshan. The rest of the team is not really there yet, but they're coming. So Notice also using Boots of Bearing for this. He's not saving this item up. It has a lot of charges, recharges as well every 3 minutes, so you don't want to be too sparing with using this. Using it for Roche, City of Roche is perfectly reasonable. And so now they have the Aegis, and now he's going to go for the Aghanims. He's also going for the Shard. Also nice to have some extra safety here, where you can Storm from yourself basically to regen 35% of your health. Also makes you invulnerable for a couple of seconds, and that also allows some of your Gravekeeper's Cloak layers to regen back up in that time. DotA is sieging this tower. He's just not going to show himself because he knows the enemy team might be coming there, and not showing means that it's harder for them to initiate on him. He's just going to use the bird, which is also going to kill this fairly quickly. A little while ago, Sancting died, kind of an unfortunate position, but now they've found a Doom. Obviously, as Visage, you go after him, use Boots of Bearing there, right and early so that you maybe can use it again in the fight. And they don't quite get the Venom. And they also lose a hero there. But still, I mean, they're fighting 4 versus 5, and still it's going reasonably well. But now he's got the Aegis still, so he can afford to die. And I think he should just resummon here, because he only has 1 bird. And he's going to lose all his mana now, so now he can't resummon actually. And with Anti-Mage on top of him, he's going to die. But he has got the Aegis, so they don't really want to kill him super fast. But that he is now, and now he can resummon. See buyback coming out here of Puck, and you can Boots of Travel in here. And that's also another advantage of playing Visage, that you have these birds that you can TP to with Boots of Travel. But yeah, so on the whole, this fight was not very good. They used the Aegis, they used buyback on Puck, and didn't really get much of anything from that. So another good fight here for the Radiant, and they're still 6k ahead. Pretty solid lead still, but at 30 minutes, 6k lead is no longer that big of a deal. Right? And as we already talked about earlier, they've got this Kotl. Kotl's net worth is not as valuable as that amount of net worth would be in most other mid-heroes. But the Aghanims now is going to use that for some farming. He of course was trying to look for some heroes or whatever, but didn't find anything, so he's just going to farm a little bit here. And the great thing about Aghanims is that if you don't use it aggressively to start a fight early, it has very low downtime. Yeah, it has a 35-second duration and 45-second cooldown, so you can be invis most of the time and sort of stay near your birds while having your birds protected. Of course, when you're farming in territory that is reasonably safe, which this is because they have the outposts, then of course you also want to use a hero to get just faster farming speed. And once again, he's invis here, just farming the wave with his birds while staying nearby, so the birds are protected from the aura. And the rest of his team is also congregating around here, trying to maybe find someone who's pushing out this wave, but it's only going to be Kotl blasting this, so it's not really possible to get an initiation here. So instead, they paint a line to move to the top lane, and Visage, of course, is a very good gem carrier, because you have your birds always give high ground vision, even outside of the active from gem. And they find an anti-mage here, so obviously you want to go in here, and he gets doomed, but it's only a doom. It's only support doom, so not a big deal. And he'll be dropping those birds. There you go. And he's just gonna walk it off. And now we see a pro gamer move. So they just won this team fight. They killed 3 heroes, including the anti-mage. And so instead of just pushing out the wave, which most people would probably do, he just sees that they already have a wave here. They're just gonna go here and just take down this tower. This is what you can do with this item build, like AC plus Vlads, plus the Boots of Bearing. You do so much tower damage. So he's just gonna take down the tower, he's gonna take down the melee racks, and there's not much you can do. Notice how he's constantly refreshing his Grave Chill on the catapults here to maximize his DPS here, and they've just taken on his racks. If he had just pushed with a wave, Kotl could have blasted that. And they might not have been able to get this quite in time. But as it is now, they've taken on these racks and haven't risked anything. Even using Invis here, trying to maybe catch someone who might be defending this tower. And now he just goes after this tower. Look at how much damage he does. He actually goes through backdoor protection really easily. Now that the drum charge from Boots of Bearing is wearing off, it's a bit slower now. It's also no longer buffed with the Grave Chill, but still, he goes through the backdoor protection there. And that's just the power of this Visage with his build. And of course, at 25, he used to go for the Aura build most of the time, or the Aura talent, but now that's replaced with the 10 armor talent on Gravecore's Cloak, which is not that good. But it's only 10 armor, and it's inactive if you lose all of your Gravecore's Cloak stacks. But you know, at best, it's like a plate mail. It also applies to Familiar, so it's a pretty weak talent. You want to go for the +1 Familiar. And look at how he's going high ground here. He's just invis with his Aghanims, and birds are hitting. He's just constantly staying here within aura range, but not within danger. It's also facing the other direction, so he can get force staffed if it gets gone on. Very smart. And yeah, there's really not much they can do here. Like, look at how little damage these familiars are taking, right? They have 80% damage reduction. You're not killing these familiars, or at least not quickly enough for them to just regen up. And this is like such a safe way of going high ground. They even have like a Cottle, they have a Plague Ward, doesn't matter. These familiars still eventually gonna kill his Rax, and he's noticed he's always staying like just in aura range. But it's just super safely here. Ogre goes a bit too far forward. It's really just Ogre being impatient here. They can just patiently siege down this melee Rax, and this is the last melee Rax. So they're gonna have Megas once this Black is taken, and just really well played here in terms of how they're hitting the timings with this Visage. And yeah, you can play Visage as a carry hero. Some caveats there. In lower level games, the games tend to be slower and people tend to be less objective focused. So in these kinds of games, Visage tends to do a bit worse as a carry. So I would really only use this in more high level games, or if you're playing like with friends or like people you know, where you have some sort of like game plan. But if you're just playing this with randoms and pubs, I probably wouldn't recommend a carry Visage, but it can definitely be a very nice kind of pocket strat, and just great at exploiting weaknesses in the enemy lineup like you have with an anti-mage. So thank you for watching, and subscribe if you want to see more content on heroes like Visage. And Obelisk Filling, I'll see you next time.